Hello everybody and welcome back to another video. Today's video is going to be a little bit different than the family vlogs and stuff that we've been doing, but I really wanted to just kind of talk about my experience and just help other people if they're in the same situation that I am, because I've been watching other people's videos about IUDs and IUD horror stories, and a lot of them have really helped me kind of come to terms with what happened to me and just everything that was going on with my body. I'm not gonna lie, I didn't go in with high hopes for the IUD in the first place, which probably didn't set me off on a very good foot, but I've had complications with other types of birth control and this was kind of the last option. And with my history of birth control, I wasn't really too sure that the IUD was going to be a good fit either, which obviously by the title and this video, you can tell it obviously was not a good fit. So we're just gonna go into kind of the details from the day I got it in to the day I got it out and what happened. Also, I do want to say my kids are upstairs running around with my husband. They're playing, they're falling off the sofa, they're beating each other up. So if you hear any weird noises, it's because they're right above me, being the toddlers that they are. So after we had our third daughter, I was actually scheduled to get my tubes tied, and I didn't decide that I wanted to do that until we were basically halfway to having her out, and I was like, I'm not doing this again. I need to get my tube tied, we're done. And that was kind of where we decided to go with it, and it didn't happen. Obviously it didn't happen, which I was okay with, because then after having my daughter, you know, it was kind of like I always wanted 4 kids, and not that we're planning on having a 4th kid, but then I feel like after I got my tubes tied that I may have regretted it a little bit. So I'm kind of happy with the way that it worked out, just in case we do eventually decide that we want to have a 4th. I don't want to have to go through any type of like reversal process or anything. And also, if you're one of those people who are coming in here to attack any other person for their birth control choice or the amount of kids they have or how they decide to have kids, please click the X on your browser and just leave this video. I don't even care if you want to give it a thumbs down first, just leave the video, because on my channel we are not judging other people for their choices in birth control or the amount of kids that they have. I have 3 kids. I had them in 2 years and 8 months, and that is how I wanted it. I don't appreciate any comments of people saying, well, there's birth control or you shouldn't have had kids or yada yada yada. It is nobody else's decision but yours on how many kids you want, how you're going to have your kids, who you're having your kids with, and what preventative measures that you're taking. So if you are here to attack anybody, please leave my channel before we get started. Okay, thank you. So with that being said, I do have issues with certain kinds of birth control, and that being that I can't use any type of barrier method. How do I want to put it? I can't use any type of condoms. Latex, non-latex, can't use them. Can't, okay? Cannot use them. Doesn't matter. No matter what, cannot use them. I have other medical conditions, not any type of transmitted diseases. I have basically an issue where when certain things come in contact with my skin basically disintegrates away. We'll just put it that way. I'm not getting into the technical terms of it. It's painful. Can't use them. So there's that. I also have been on birth control pills, but there's only one pill that I can be on because I have high blood pressure as well as other things. I suffer from like migraines and allergies and all kinds of different things. So there's only one form of the pill that I can be on. It makes me feel like crap. It's what I was on for basically since, I can't even remember, maybe I was like 15 or 16. I originally got on birth control to fix acne. It made me feel horrible then. It made me feel horrible forever. And yeah, so when I'm on the birth control pill, right now I'm not on any extra medications other than my allergy and my sinus nose spray that I have to take. Otherwise I can't breathe, and my inhaler for asthma. On top of that, I'm not on anything right now. If I get on the birth control pill, I then all of a sudden I have to take an additional pill for my asthma. I have to take an additional pill for high blood pressure. I have to take an additional pill for blood thinners. I have to take an additional pill for, what else? Something else. Something I don't even remember. Oh, I had to take iron because I become anemic. And so then I'm on 4 additional medications plus the birth control. So I'm putting 5 extra things into my body every single day. On top of that, I would get migraines. So then I had to take my migraine preventative. And then if I had a migraine, I had to take an additional pill for my migraine. If the migraine didn't go away in 5 hours, I had to take an additional pill for that. If it didn't go away in an additional 3 hours, I had to take an additional pill for that. And then if it still didn't go away, I have to go to the emergency room to get a shot. So 10 things. If I'm on the pill, there's 10 different things that I could be putting into my body on a daily basis just for that one birth control pill. That, you shouldn't have to live your life that way, right? You shouldn't. You should not have to live your life that way. That's ridiculous. So there's where we come into the IUD. They were saying the IUD, it doesn't get into your bloodstream, yada, yada, yada. So they decided that the Mirena would be the best for me. Now there's the copper. Before anybody goes, well, there's a copper IUD, there's no hormones, blah, blah, blah. I have really irregular cycles as well. I mean, really irregular cycles where I have really, like soaking through a postpartum pad. If you haven't seen one, they're like this big, they're this thick. I mean, they're bigger than my underwear, okay? Bigger than my underwear. They would like come up the front, like up to my belly button and up past like the back of my pants. They're huge. I would soak through that every 1 to 2 hours for 3 to 4 days straight, and I will bleed for anywhere from 8 to 12 days, sometimes 14 days. So the copper IUD, if you have heavy cycles already, heavy bleeding, you aren't a candidate for it at all because it increases bleeding. So basically if I got the copper IUD, I would literally just bleed out and die. Like it would not be good. So I couldn't get the copper IUD, which would have honestly been a great one because there's no hormones. But that brings us to the Mirena. It's low hormones, it's not supposed to enter your bloodstream, all of that stuff. You don't have to take anything, it's not supposed to raise your blood pressure, all of that good stuff. And that was very true. It didn't raise my blood pressure. I did have migraines. I didn't have as many migraines as I would with the birth control, but I still had migraines, which I'll get into in a little bit. So this is a really long explanation as to why we chose the Mirena, but I figured you probably all wanted to know how I ended up on the Mirena, so there's that. So getting into the how I got it inserted, why I got it removed portion of this video. So it's almost been a year since I've had this inserted. I got this inserted on Halloween, October 31st, 2019. I chose the midwife that delivered my youngest daughter to insert it because I really like her. I've been running some breastfeeding classes with her. I would like to say when I had it removed, it was still placed properly, so there was nothing with the insertion or the way that she did anything to cause the issues that happened. It's just purely the Mirena. It wasn't inserted wrong. It wasn't out of place when I had it removed. Everything was totally perfectly fine with the insertion and the removal process. But I really like her. I've been talking to her, so I was like, you know what, you can just put it in. We'll just go there. And that's who I chose to put it in. So the day comes where we are supposed to get it in, and it was fine. I went in. Didn't have a long wait or anything. She was super great about it. She explained everything. I mean, when you look at it, it's terrifying. I'm not gonna lie. You see all the different things. You see that big long stick that they stick up there to like measure things. It's not a problem. It takes a couple minutes. You basically lay there like you're getting a pap smear done. They do stick a little like measuring device up to measure where the top of your uterus is and everything so that they know how far that they have to put it up there so it doesn't, you know, go through or perforate your uterus at all. Yeah, nothing crazy. Then once they do that, they get it all prepped, they put it up, and then the little, you know, arms come out and it stays there, and that's it. They cut the strings. I hear a lot of people saying that it's the most painful experience they've ever had, or it's horrible. Honestly, it really isn't. It's so easy. It's so painless. I've had my 3 kids. I was induced with them. With the last 2 had Pitocin, the first one had Cervidil. I had an induced labor with all 3 of my kids with no epidural. Trust me, the IUD is not even in the same universe of pain as to having a child. So if you're worried about it and you've had a baby before, it's really nothing at all. It didn't hurt at all. I barely felt it, not a problem. So they did say that you would have bleeding for a little while. You know, you can have bleeding for a month or so, and then after 6 months, things should regulate themselves out and your period could go away, or you just have a really light period and things will be all hunky-dory. Well, that is where the things started going majorly downhill. So yeah, I did have my bleeding lots of bleeding, just like my heavy period where I would bleed through like things of like nonstop. So I got it put in October, and I had it in for about 9 months or so. I never stopped bleeding. Never. There was not a single day that went by in those 9 months where I wasn't bleeding. And not like just a little bit of bleeding, like where it would be okay if I just wore a panty liner or nothing. It was like a regular pad, like normal medium flow pad, every single day from the day I got it put in to the day and a couple days after I got it taken out. That was a problem. It would have been okay if it was just like light bleeding or something, but this was like pre-pandemic. Now let's say pre-pandemic, because going out during the pandemic was literally non-existent. But I had it 3, 4, 5 times where I was walking a store. I know one time I had it at Walmart. I had it 3 times at Target, because we live right by Target, so that's usually where I go. Where I would be walking around with a panty liner on. I'd be walking through the store, and then I just would have a gush of blood, and it would go through the panty liner. It would go running down my legs, like where I had to get out immediately. I started having to carry extra pants and underwear with me whenever I would go somewhere. Seriously embarrassing. And there was no warning. It wasn't like I had cramps beforehand or anything like that. I would have cramps after it happened, but there was no warning. I'd just be walking and just gush, and that was it. And then I would call the doctor, and they'd be like, oh yeah, that's normal. I'm sorry. In what world is anything causing that type of problem normal? Like, why is that normal? That should not be considered normal. But they're like, yeah, that's just a normal side effect of it. You know, that it happens to a lot of people. You should go back to the drawing board and figure out why that's happening, because that should not be normal. I had that a lot. It happened a lot at home, but thankfully when I was at home, it was an easy fix. It was just really frustrating and really annoying. Really annoying. So there was that. 9 months straight, still bleeding, not stopping. They kept telling me, like, just wait a little bit longer. It'll kind of fix itself. It'll even itself out. Things will go back to normal. It just didn't. So I got really frustrated with that. Now, for some TMI things, if you don't want the TMI, probably now's your time to just click off the video. But if you're here talking about IUD and birth control, you probably are here and living for the TMI moments anyways. So, TMI moments. My husband could feel the strings, and there wasn't anything they could do about it. I did go back to see if there was something they could do about the strings. They were already cut short enough where they couldn't really do anything. They could kind of like try to push them back up underneath of my cervix. So we tried that, but he could still feel the strings. Over time, if you do have that issue and you want to stick with the IUD, the strings are supposed to kind of, I guess, become a little bit more like pliable, or you're not supposed to feel them as much. You're just supposed to kind of not dissolve, but like, I don't know. When you get them put in, it feels kind of like the like plastic tags from like a shirt. Like when you like pull the tag off of a shirt and you've got those little plastic stringies and you poke it with your finger. That's kind of what they feel like when you first get it put in. They're supposed to get like thinner and more pliable so that you can't feel them like that as much. But they're still there so that you can feel them to make sure that your IUD is still in place and all that stuff. So you'll still be able to feel them if you go try to find them. Does that make sense? I don't know. Anyway, you can feel. And then they also use them to pull it out when you get it pulled out. So there was that. After we did the deed, I would have horrible cramping. Horrible cramping. Like getting ready to have a baby, feeling like my uterus is being ripped out of my body type of cramps, and my bleeding would also increase. So if I wasn't bleeding at the time, immediately I would start bleeding, and I would bleed pretty heavy for the rest of the day into the next day. It was every single time. It wasn't like it was here and there. It was every single time I would start bleeding really bad. I haven't really heard of anybody else complaining of those types of complications, so I don't know if that's just like a me thing or if anybody else out there is having that with the really bad cramps after and the really bad bleeding. I don't know. So there was that. I was having headaches, and I wasn't getting to the migraine status, but I basically had a headache from a couple of days after I got it put in until I got it taken out. We weren't really sure if like, they were telling me that since it didn't get into my bloodstream, that I shouldn't be having the headaches and stuff as that. It was probably just stress of being with a new baby and having 3 kids at home and the pandemic and all that stuff. They're like, it's probably just stress. There's no way it's from the IUD. It doesn't get into your bloodstream, yada, 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 all that stuff. Also, almost immediately after I got it put in, I just felt tense. Like, I felt like everything was getting on my nerves and everything was making me mad, and I had no patience, and I feel really bad for that because I felt like I would yell at my kids more, or I would that I was just not acting like myself, and I wasn't acting like the best mom that I could be. And so that, to me, I was like, that, it just doesn't feel right. And I kind of got that on the birth control pill as well, where like, you have all those hormones in your body and you just, like you're trying to control your brain and you're trying to do things, but the hormones are just making you act another way. And that's how it felt on the Mirena. And again, they were like, well, it's probably because you're a new mom and you're still breastfeeding and the pandemic and yada, 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 and all this stuff. And it was just all the excuses other than it being the IUD. And in my heart and in my brain and my whole body, I'm like, I just know that it's the IUD. I know it's the birth control. I know it's the hormones because I've been through it before on the birth control. It feels exactly the same way. And they're telling me that it's not supposed to be entering my bloodstream. So it can't be that. And to me, things just weren't adding up. So I just felt that way. And they started referring me for therapy, and they were going to talk to me about getting on anxiety meds and all these different things. And I do have anxiety. I do still have all of that stuff, but not to the extent that it was with the Mirena. So it came to a point where I just had this month where it was just miserable. I was having the headaches. I was having the migraines. I was still bleeding every day. I was still having cramps every day. My anxiety was through the roof. I was becoming suicidal from anxiety and depression and all of these things. Like, I was having suicidal thoughts. And I'm like, you know what? I don't know if it's the IUD, but I've got to get it removed, because if it is, it has to go. This is not okay. It's not okay to be feeling like that. So I went to the doctor, and they basically were like, well, you've already got 3 kids. Are you sure you really want to get it removed? And I'm like, yeah, like, if I'm feeling like this crap, I'll risk having a 4th kid if I can just feel like me again. If I can just feel like a good mom. And if I can just feel like my own personality, that I'm not being controlled by hormones and this stupid piece of metal that's shoved up in my uterus. I don't want to feel like this anymore. Since we are in the pandemic, I couldn't have the midwife take it out. The midwives were not allowed to be in the office. They were primarily only allowed to be in the hospital. And so my midwife couldn't come take it out. I had a different doctor, and they didn't really do anything. They didn't check my levels, my hormone levels. They didn't run a pregnancy test. They didn't do any blood work or anything to make sure that everything was okay. They basically just said it's your choice to have it removed, which was great. But they did just want to go over my history and remind me that I've already got 3 really young kids at home, and am I sure that I want to take it out? And I said, yes, I'm 100% sure that I want to take it out. And something in my mind was like, it is kind of weird that you didn't run a pregnancy test. Like, don't you think you want to like check? Not that it matters, because you'd have to get it out anyways, but they didn't run a pregnancy test. And something in the back of my head was like, I don't really know why they haven't like run any tests to make sure that nothing's wrong. But okay, we're just gonna get it out. Getting it out was super easy. They just pulled the string and boop, out it came. Not a big deal. So he basically just came in, pulled it out. He goes, all right, it's out, threw it in a trash can and walked out. And that was kind of it. They did ask if I wanted to get on any type of birth control, and I said no. Right now I just want to let my body regulate. But I will say, and I've heard a lot of people say this, the second that came right out of my cervix, like I felt a little pinch, a little teeny tiny pinch, nothing major. The second it came out, I immediately felt better. I like instantly was already like less tense. Like I felt my body relax. And that sounds really weird. And I thought whenever I heard some other people say that, I'm like, that's really weird. Like, you're not going to feel a difference instantly. But I did. Instantly, it felt better. My headache by the end of the day was gone. My cramping stopped immediately. The second it left my cervix, the cramping stopped. I had no more cramping. I bled for, I think, 4 or 5 days, and then the bleeding stopped. So I know that that thing was causing so many issues. My anxiety instantly started going away, and I still have anxiety, but the level, like the elevated level that it was, instantly went away within the week. My migraines went away, the headaches went away. I didn't have the high blood pressure issue, which was good. So that never came, but then it never had to go away. Yeah, it caused so many problems. And the thing is too, is that when you call the doctors or you look on the Mirena website, they're like, all those issues, yeah, that's normal, that's okay, don't worry about it, it's fine. But why is that okay? Like the way that I was feeling, that they're saying that's normal, even if they're considering it normal, why is it okay that that's normal? That shouldn't be okay. Like if those are considered normal, there needs to be kind of some repurposing of this device, because those things shouldn't be okay. And I hope that makes sense. I hope that's coming off right. But in my brain, it shouldn't be okay. You know, like you shouldn't be able to be put on something that's going to make you feel so crappy and then be told that's normal. If that is what you're going to be told is normal, then something needs to be done about it, because it's just not okay. I'm never going to get over the fact that I've been told that that's normal, that that's okay, because it's not. It's really not. Now, I'm going to make a second video on this, because those of you that have been watching and that watch the vlogs, I'm going to put all of the vlogs and everything in the description box if you want to watch all of them and all of the tests that I took and everything like that, because you know that I ended up getting positive pregnancy tests after I had the IUD removed. And it was basically the cycle following the IUD that I ended up getting pregnancy tests, which I ended up getting my first very, very, very strong positive pregnancy test at 3 DPO, which is not normal. You don't get a pregnancy test at 3 DPO. And we went through a lot of different things with this. I got the positive pregnancy test. A couple days later, it got fainter, it got fainter, it got fainter. I went in for testing. The testing was too late, all this stuff. Basically, I ended up getting pregnant on the IUD, and when I had the IUD removed, I was already pregnant. And they didn't run that pregnancy test that I said. I just felt like they should have run one. They didn't run one. Now the thing about it is that when I got the IUD removed, it would have been probably too early to pick up the positive pregnancy test. Maybe if I had a blood test run, maybe. But I had it removed right around the same time, like maybe 5, 6, 7 DPO, and it probably wouldn't have pulled up positive. Now, the other thing about it is that most likely the pregnancy wasn't viable to begin with, so I don't want anybody attacking my doctor saying that it was malpractice or anything like that, because even if I was pregnant, the IUD would have had to come out anyways, and it's just a whole hodgepodge of things. So we don't really know exactly what happened. We can't confirm anything totally entirely. But what we have now believed is that I got pregnant on a properly placed IUD. I decided to have it removed right around the same time that we would have found out about the pregnancy. The pregnancy would have not already been viable, and I was just picking up the hormones in my body that were leaving my body. So I got the strong pregnancy test, and then it started going downhill from there. And it would have been an early pregnancy loss around 5 weeks or so. So I'll go ahead and I'll make another video about how I got pregnant on the IUD and all of that stuff if anybody is interested in that. So keep an eye out for that. If anybody has any questions at all, please let me know. You can leave them in the comment box and I'll try to get back to you. I can always do a Q&A video if needed, if there's a lot of questions, but I will try to get back to you as quickly as possible, and hopefully I've helped somebody out with this video. And I don't know, that's all I can hope for, is that this video was helpful to somebody out there. And yeah, so I don't know what else to say. That's kind of it. Crazy story. And yeah, please give the video a big thumbs up and hit that subscribe button, and I will see you in the next one. Bye guys.
You can take me high, feels like I can fly. You can take me high.